To the criminal investigation of former President Donald Trump and the Trump Organization. Sources tell ABC News that Manhattan District Attorney Cy Vance has now convened a special grand jury that could decide whether or not to indict the former president, a step that likely signals an escalation of a nearly two-year probe. Prosecutors are looking at whether Trump may have inflated the value of some properties while obtaining bank loans, but then deflated those values for tax purposes. In a statement last night, Trump called the seating of the grand jury, quote, a continuation of the greatest witch hunt in American history, and that it's, quote, being driven by highly partisan Democrat prosecutors. To help us unpack what all of this means, we bring in attorney Dan Alonso, the former deputy to Manhattan DA Cy Vance, the prosecutors leading this investigation. Thanks so much for joining us, Mr. Alonso.
Thanks for having me.
So it's been reported that this special grand jury could meet 3 times a week for up to 6 months, and that during this time, the jurors could consider this and unrelated investigations. What does it mean to you that the DA, your former boss, took this step?
It means that they've reached the point in a long-term, complex investigation where they need the special grand jury, meaning they need something that's extended for longer than 4 weeks, which is the normal term of a regular grand jury. We colloquially call these specials. They're really just additional grand juries whose term gets extended long beyond the 4 weeks. And why would they need this extended grand jury? Essentially for 2 reasons. One is that they highly likely have decided that they do want to present charges against someone, at least one person or a company. More likely they have multiple targets that they're looking at and people that they're just sort of investigating right now and they just don't know. And the other reason is they want to use the grand jury to its full investigative potential. A grand jury, as it was traditionally constituted, for hundreds of years, was a body of citizens that's allowed to investigate crime by compelling people to give them information, cooperate, testify, and provide documentation. So you really do need the extra time to get that done. So I think that's why they took that step, and it's not unusual in a complex fraud or corruption case.
And it is important to also point out that the former president has denied any wrongdoing. Of course, this seems to be a highly complex investigation, as you just described it. What do you think prosecutors are looking at in presenting to the grand jury at this point?
So they're looking at what could be constituted as kind of classic white-collar crime. You make one representation for one purpose and a different representation for a different purpose. On a small scale, it might be like a family that seeks financial aid and wants to show that they have very little income, and then they seek a loan and they want to show they have a lot of income. You put those two together and you know that somebody's lying about something. On a much broader scale, as you mentioned in the introduction, Lindsay, it's about what did you tell the tax authorities, what did you tell the lenders, what did you tell insurance underwriters? And so they're going to have to find, presumably there is a discrepancy or else there wouldn't be a reason to do this investigation. So it's very, very complex. These are tough investigations.
As much as it is complex, so I imagine that there would be some kind of clear cut if you have this paper trail that he either did it or he didn't, right? And there would be proof in the paperwork.
Yeah, it doesn't always work that way, particularly in areas of intent. You have to prove what's in someone's mind based on something else, usually a document, a conversation, sometimes a recording. So yeah, documents might tell you what's in someone's mind, but more likely they'll just tell you what the transaction is. And Trump himself famously doesn't use email. So that's a traditional way to sort of show what's in someone's mind at particular points in time. So this is going to be painstaking. It's going to be about conversations, the communications between the Trump Organization and the accountants at Mazars will be very important. The work papers that the accountants at Mazars kept will be very important. So this is going to be there's just a lot of different places that you look for evidence of knowledge and intent, which are crucial in white-collar cases and separate a simple transaction, perhaps a civil wrong, from the much, much more serious criminal problem.
And this investigation appears to have begun with claims by Trump's former attorney and fixer Michael Cohen, someone who turned on Trump after pleading guilty to other crimes. So is Cohen a reliable source or witness, given that he has some skin in the game here?
Well, it's hard to tell is the short answer. But Michael Cohen obviously has issues. But the thing to understand at this stage is it's not clear that they're even going to use him as a witness. They may just be using him as a source of information. Michael Cohen talks a lot on his podcast, on interviews about what he knows about Trump, a little bit less now that he's obviously been asked not to talk publicly about the details of the investigation. But he's very bullish on the case, so he obviously knows what is out there. So the short answer is we don't know. I'm sure that Trump and Weisselberg's defense lawyers are chomping at the bit to have Michael Cohen be the witness, the star witness for the DA. And I think the DA's people are a lot smarter than to do anything that would make it seem like Michael Cohen is the star witness. I will say, by the way, that I don't think it's impossible to put Michael Cohen on the witness stand and have him be believed by the jury. You know, I put on some pretty bad people who have lied before. And Michael Cohen, you know, he did some things, but he wasn't somebody who lived a life of crime. He was somebody who, you know, did some things that he regrets, and he certainly lied. And that's fair game for cross-examination. But it doesn't mean he's lying now.
As a former top official in the DA office that's leading this case, how do you respond to Trump's claims that this is nothing more than a witch hunt by a partisan Democratic prosecutor?
Well, it's complete nonsense. I mean, Cy Vance is as professional a prosecutor as I've ever known. And among people who have to get elected by definition, so he's a politician, he's the least politician that many people have ever met. I mean, Cy Vance is a lawyer first and a politician second. So that said, Trump is going to say what he's going to say. And that I expect would happen even if Trump himself is not charged. You know, whoever is charged in this case will face a public relations onslaught. But Cy Vance has kept his head down. He's done the legal work here. He's gone all the way to the Supreme Court.
The least politician. And lastly, knowing this DA's office and how it operates, what's your best guess on the timing of this investigation, given where they are now?
Well, I think that we have two great clues. One is that it's a 6-month grand jury. So that, you know, doesn't mean that it has to happen within 6 months. It can still be extended, but usually you want to keep the decisions within the initial period, because otherwise the grand jurors get upset that they have to stay longer than they thought they were going to have to. But the second is that this is the last year of Cy Vance's 4-year term and of 12 years in office. He's not running for re-election. There will be a new district attorney as of January 1st of next year. So you can bet that he wants to have this decision made by him before he leaves office. So, you know, 6 months from now is around November. You know, that makes sense. It could be sooner. Very complex, but that seems like a good educated guess.
Dan Alonso, thank you so much for your time and your insight.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.